Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our January 2019 Industry Update webinar. Today we'll kind of be going over things going on in our office, some projects our staff are working on, and some media that we have out in the marketplace right now. Here is a quick agenda of some of the topics we will cover. First up is new staff, and I will let John take over that little quick part.
I'm going to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
There isn't a slide for it. So.
I'm going to go back a slide.
Okay.
So I think at the conference many of you met Jenn, our adventure travel specialist. And if you haven't, you'll run into her somewhere. Oh, at the Ag Eco conference, which we'll be talking about in a minute. But we have a new person on board, Callie Alstad. So if you have questions during this whole thing, you can email her at callie.alstad@nebraska.gov. She's not brand new. She's 5 weeks old, I think, right? And if you don't know what she looks like because you can't see her, come on up here, Callie. We can have 3 on the screen.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Callie. She's going to be working on industry relations and education. So she's taking over the webinar program, the tourism conference, and a variety of other things. So you'll hear from her more as we go along. And she can talk. Say hello.
Hello, everyone.
And yeah, so if you have questions, email those to her. And as we usually do at the end of it, we'll go through questions if you have any. So thank you. Welcome, Callie.
Yes, thank you. We forgot to introduce ourselves, John.
Oh, okay. This is Jenn Gjerde. She's marketing manager.
Yes, and this is John Ricks. He's executive director.
And we have an esteemed guest in our presence today in this room where you really talk to nobody but a red light. Roger Jasnock from Kearney is here. You can't see him, but he's waving to you all and saying good afternoon. We're very happy that the sun came out. It's not 4 degrees. My joints are loosening up after having been below 0 for a couple. So let's go on.
Yeah, normally we like visitors in Nebraska, but we told that polar vortex to go away.
Yeah, we told it to go away.
So it listened. Yeah, but up next we have the Agri-Eco-Tourism Workshop, which is right around the corner for us, February 26th through the 28th. And this year we're excited to be doing it in a whole new location in Ord. It's going to be a very hands-on sightseeing type workshop that will be nothing like what we've done before. So here's the schedule. Tuesday, that first night, we will have our commission meeting at Bootleg Brewers. Then on Wednesday, we'll actually be doing ranch tours to 3 different ranches in the area. We'll do the taste and feel event that night, and then we'll have our keynote speakers and more of that conference-y workshop feel with speakers on the Thursday. So the ranch tours that I was talking about will take us to Calamus Outfitters, Comstock Lodge, and Rouse's 1+1 Ranch. Here's some pictures of those locations and those families. So we'll have buses that will take loads of people to each of these different places throughout the day. And I think we meet up at one of them in the middle for lunch. And then on that Thursday, the keynote speakers we'll have are Michael Marlin, Michael Forsberg, and Sarah Sortum. If you haven't registered for a conference yet, or you're just now learning about it and you're interested, you can find all this information and more information on our website, visitnebraska.com. Just look for that industry button, and the workshop will be one of the first things that pops up. Plus a bonus, if you really want to register, and if you register by the 10th, February 8th, you get one of our new Nebraska Honestly It's Not For Everyone t-shirts. So a little incentive to get you registered early.
So what I wanted to do is, everybody's familiar, I think by now, of the fact that our campaign, when we announced it at the conference on October 17th, kind of went viral in a very exciting way. I would say nationally for sure, and we've even had a number of international kinds of things going on too. For example, I was on the radio in Adelaide, Australia, and Perth, Australia. Talking to people in Sweden. We know somebody in the hospitality industry whose son is in the hospitality industry internationally, and he was at a conference in Malaysia, and a couple weeks later at one in Geneva, Switzerland, and emailed his dad in Columbus and said, hey, your campaign is being talked about in Malaysia and Geneva too. So it's everywhere. So we don't have any results yet, mainly because the actual crane campaign that we'll talk about in a couple minutes only started on January 14th. And we're going to be doing research when the summer campaign kicks off on April 1st. But I wanted to give you an update because we watch things constantly. I just want to give you a feel for what's happening out there because truthfully, I was with many of the state travel directors in early December, and I've known many of them for many, many years, and nobody's ever seen anything like this go viral this quickly. And not only that, but it's held for so long. The impact is held for so long. So let's look at a couple of things. Let's go back to 2018, and let's look on a calendar basis. So, you know, our annual users, remember 2017 was the migration, so there was a boatload of people. The eclipse, I mean. Eclipse, thank you. Nice t-shirt.
Thank you.
The eclipse. And so January, December, you know, there's a few things we look at. First of all is users. Those are individual people. And we were up, you know, a little over 6%, which is solid, especially considering the eclipse year, the year before. Annual sessions, in other words, one user can come back to the site during that time period and use the site. So some people did that. We're up 6.23%. And the other thing is page views, which were up 16%. So in other words, more people are coming to the website, and then they're spending time browsing a little bit. And remember what we talked about at the conference was this brand apathy concept, that we're not even on people's shopping lists, to the extent that people told us, consumers out of state told us, that they didn't even want to spend the time researching anything. So a visit to a website at this stage of the game is big stuff. So we were up. So if you look at summer, from April to October 15th of last year, what happens is that picked up the eclipse from the year before. So our user count was flat. It was down 1.91%, nothing to really worry about. But understand it was a red number. And sessions were down a little bit and page views were still up. So the people who were coming were looking at more pages, but fewer of them were coming at that time. But here's what happened. We took it from October 15th. Our conference was actually October 17th, but we're not going to, you know, play with a couple days. So here's what happened. Users went from, you know, compared to the prior year went up 63% to over 101,000 users, which is significant. The sessions went up 64%, so we're talking big numbers here. And interestingly, again, the page views went up even higher, which means that more people weren't only coming to the site, but they were in fact spending more time, viewing more pages on the site. They were shopping more, if you will. This number we pulled the other day, about 39,000. Look at it this way. During that short period of time, compared to the year prior, almost 40,000 people more came to visit Nebraska.com than the prior year. And our site got a little under 400,000 visitors last year, so a jump in 40,000 in about 3 months is very significant. So we're on people's lists, they're shopping more for us. So that's one thing. So the question I always get then is, how does that translate into money? You know, do people actually come? So let's do the same thing that we just did with web traffic with lodging tax results. I'm going to play with your heads a little bit here, but follow with me. Let's look at calendar 18, January through, right now we have through November reported, because we're on a couple month delay. So 6 of the 11 months in 2018, that was through November, set all-time records for lodging tax collections. That 1% fund that our cash fund, that generates our cash fund. So, you know, more than half of the months that are reported so far for 2018 were larger than ever since 1980. So February, March, May, August, and September and November were those months. 4 of the additional months were ranked second, and then only 1 was in third or fourth somewhere. So if you look at it this way, 10 of the 11 months that we have reported so far for 2018 were record setting. That's also a trend we're watching because that's very important. So through October, the collections were about 5.5 million. That's up over 6.5% over 2017. Very solid. So let's look at fiscal 19. So I'm going to move you to July 1st, 2018, and it'll go through June 30, 2019. For those first 5 months, again, we have through November, 3 of those first 5 months of this current fiscal year were record-setting, all-time records. July and October. We're second all-time, so again, we're setting a new bar, if you will. So through November, we're at that level, about 2.66 million, and that's up over 3.5 increase over the prior year. And understand this too, is that many of those months in that block that we're talking right now aren't what you would call, prime months. I guess you'd call them shoulder season to some extent, except for some meeting and convention business, which is really solid and good. But being up over, remember, the prior fiscal year, the entire year was record-setting. So we're trending solidly above a record-setting year on a fiscal year basis. So these are all good things. And remember, all we really did to generate these numbers was move more money out of state. We're starting to invite people from out of state. We have good reason to, and they're responding. And truly, this really has nothing to do with our new creative product at all. We won't see that. Well, it's happening now with the crane campaign that started in January. We'll talk about that in a minute. But our new campaign should boost these numbers even more. So we're pretty excited about what's going on. We also have out, I can talk about this one, I think. Our annual report is out. We're going to be visiting at the legislative lunch tomorrow. We'll have copies of this. To get your digital version, it's at that address, visitnebraska.com/media/industry. Download your copy. And it basically covers a lot of the things that we'll either talk about today or have already talked about. So be sure to review that. I like it because it's not a huge, long document, but it highlights, really truly gives you all the highlights of what's been going on. So that's out there. Download it and give it a read. And if you have any questions, be sure to get back to us.
If you're a numbers person, that's definitely your resource just to recap what 2018 was like for the Tourism Commission.
So I'll do crane migration or part of it. Last year, to my knowledge, was the first year we really concentrated and did a campaign on the crane migration itself. It goes from late February-ish, March into April. Last year, the birds even stayed a little further. They were mid-April. So what we thought we'd do last year is build this campaign around that time period. We were actually able to get out in the marketplace earlier this year with our new campaign, which will show you the TV commercial in a minute. This is important for a couple reasons. First of all, this campaign started January 14th. It's going to run through middle of March. And then 2 weeks later, our spring campaign starts. So in other words, Nebraska's in the marketplace a couple months, a good quarter before most of the other surrounding states are beginning to promote it all, in some of the same markets we're in. So having the crane migration isn't only a really fantastic experience from the standpoint of what Mother Nature brings us. From a marketing standpoint, it gives us good reason to be in the marketplace earlier with a solid campaign that kind of drives right into our spring effort. So here's what we're doing with that campaign. Last year we were in Kansas City, Sioux Falls, Topeka, Wichita. This year we were able to add Denver, which is significant because it actually increases the number of households we reach by more than 50%, which in fact is really important because we're just talking to more people now. And we want to do that. We want to continue to talk to more people. We want to continue to invite them. And there are the dates. Started the week of 1/14th and we'll go through the week of 3/11, which is like it's St. Patty's Day, right in there somewhere. I'm just going to give you, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but I want you to tell you, kind of show you what we are doing. We're doing broadcast and cable. All the details about reach and frequency, those are pretty technical media things, but I can assure you that we're running really solid point levels, which means we're reaching as many people as we can and hitting them multiple times, which is really good. Some of the examples of the places we're going to be on are Discovery, Animal Planet, Food. You can see them up there. So we're really excited about that. And just from watching the last 14 days, I know compared to last year, where we had our first effort at cranes, not with the same creative, but with the other creative, that we're running about 50% ahead of that, which is really solid also. Continue to do things like connected TV and pre-roll, cable cutters, we're getting to them. Pre-roll in a number of different places, YouTube and things, in all the DMA, all the markets we're in, 15 and 30-second units. So we're really kind of, it's a very visual thing because it fits right in line with the cranes being a very visual thing, which we'll show you in a second. Here you go, the YouTubes and everything, we're on there again. Just so to give you an idea from last year, look all the way down at the last bullet, we had almost 5 million views with a 66% video completion rate, which means people hung with the video all the way through, so the impact is there. Social's the same thing. Facebook, Instagram, a lot of different channels, cross-device delivery, which means it's on a variety of different devices. So it's layered. We have TV and then all the digital things following up and supporting. So I don't know how many people have seen these, but this campaign fits right in with the context of the new Honestly It's Not For Everyone campaign. Remember we talked about this. We took a perception, I guess a misperception of what we found people thought about in other markets and fed that back to them, and it's called inoculation. Again, we fed them their belief or their misperception, which is basically nothing but flyover country, because that's that's truly what people think out of state. And then we turned it on them, and I think you can read the copy, but I'll read it for you. Some people regard Nebraska as a place you cross on the way to a more interesting place, but over 500,000 sandhill cranes might disagree. Every March they land here for a closer look at things, and flocks of human beings swoop in to witness the awesomeness of a crane migration. There are those who will always think our state is strictly for the birds, but you might disagree. So go to visitnebraska.com for a free travel guide and get a closer look at one very interesting place. So again, it's right in line with the other creative that'll break, that you've already seen at the conference, that'll break on the 1st of April. Page versions, half-page versions. Interesting that we have no print this year, because we're just going to keep with video, but we needed these formats to actually provide the content and the look for all the digital applications we have. So here's what's going to happen with a television spot. And I'll play it twice just because we have time.
Some people see Nebraska as nothing but flyover country. Over 500,000 sandhill cranes might disagree, because every March they land here for a closer look at things, and thousands of people gather to soak in the unmitigated awesomeness of a crane migration. There are those who will always think our state is strictly for the birds. Then again, you might disagree. Nebraska. Honestly, it's not for everyone.
So again, it fits right into the format of the other spots. There's that little self-deprecating humor in there, and most importantly, I like to call it the inoculation. We feed people what I'm calling now the misperceptions that they have, and we're challenging those in a humorous way and showing them actually the fantastic nature of the state. And like I just promised, we'll play it one more time because it's free.
Some people see Nebraska as nothing but flyover country. Over 500,000 sandhill cranes might disagree, because every March they land here for a closer look at things, and thousands of people gather to soak in the unmitigated awesomeness of a crane migration. There are those who will always think our state is strictly for the birds. Then again, you might disagree. Nebraska. Honestly, it's not for everyone.
So there we go again. It's really kind of fun. I'll let Jen get to the migration event that we had in a minute, but what I want to say, and we've been looking at those numbers, and we're up 50%, and if you look at the individual markets that we're in, the Denvers and the Kansas Cities and the Topeka's and the Wichitas and the Sioux Falls, we're up significantly more. I think one of those markets is up 75%. So Denver is obviously the most households in there, so I think they're up 60-some, and it's tens of thousands of new users to the site. So right now we're setting the stage really well, and because we wanted to do something a little different, and for the first time for Nebraska tourism this year, I'll have Jen explain what we did in Denver a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so on top of the crane media, we wanted to do an in-market event to promote the crane migration. So about 2 weeks ago in Denver, we held this event at the Denver Press Club where we invited 20 riders to come experience Nebraska food, Nebraska beverages. That's how we started off the night. Then we showed them the short documentary that Nat Geo did last year on the crane migration. And then we had a panel with Brad Mellema, Bill from Rowe, Chuck from the Crane Trust, and Joel from Nebraska Game and Parks. And they just spent probably about 40 minutes really talking about what this experience is like with the crane migration to these riders. So we invited the riders with the intent that hopefully they'll then pitch the stories to their publishers. Thankfully, 5 of those riders walked away with giveaways, so we're going to be able to bring them here to Nebraska to actually experience the crane migration as well as the prairie chickens. Thank you to McCook who helped sponsor this event as well and gave a prairie chicken package away. It was very well received. I think people liked it. What did you think, John?
Yeah, I think the other thing is we've had in past webinars we've had the questions of how come you're only pushing the cranes and that kind of thing. What about the prairie chickens? Know that we brought Joel Jorgensen there from Game and Parks to talk all about the different kinds of birds who are here. Yeah, the sandhill crane, 80% of the population comes here during that short time period and lands in that 60-mile stretch. But he was able to fill people in on other kinds of things going on, particularly like Jen said, I just forgot their names. The prairie chickens.
Oh.
And how could I forget the prairie chickens?
Chickens.
It's one of those Thursday moments. And in fact, interestingly, one of the writers who came along brought her friend, who I don't think we knew was coming along.
We knew she was coming, but she doesn't actually live in Denver. She lives in New York City.
Okay. Yeah, and she writes for the New York Times. And to those big prairie chicken fans, she was more interested in the prairie chickens, I think, from talking to her than she was in the cranes.
She was very
excited. So this is called leading with the big attraction, then filling in everything else we can under there. We had representatives from these communities, from the CVBs there. They helped sponsor the event. It was wonderful. I think, I'm looking over at Roger now, he's given 2 thumbs up. So these are the kinds of things we want to play with because we were there right as the campaign was starting. So next year we might do one in Denver, we might do one in Kansas City, we might want, who knows, Des Moines, we might go to Minneapolis next year, just depending on how these markets respond this year, and that's why we're monitoring them so closely.
Yeah, we can track what these riders do, so we'll see what kind of impact this event had. That same week, and actually the weeks following, we were at the National Western Stock Show in Denver, which we've done for quite a few years now. 16 long days of booth management outside of the rodeo. In that time period, we handed out over 17,000 guides. 28 people helped work the booth, so thank you so much to those volunteers and commissioners that made the trip to Denver to really help us with that. We couldn't do the stock show without everyone's assistance.
Is it 1,700 or 17,000?
1,700, sorry. That was me misspeaking. 1,700.
I had one of those, so she's entitled.
I've caught up on my Thursday.
But I do know that we had to get more guides delivered to the event when it was going on, and I think that was a first.
Yeah. I'm going to read this quote from Karen because I think it really wrapped up the impact we had at the show this year. The show has always been great for Nebraska tourism to be at, but this year far outdid the other years. People made a point of stopping by to talk about our new campaign, a vast majority saying they loved it, some even outright saying they never considered visiting Nebraska, but after seeing our campaign, they plan a visit. People were taking pictures of our booth, which was a first. They never did that before. Great conversations were had, from planning vacations to seeing the cranes to moving to Nebraska and even wanting to attend colleges in our state. Tanking is always a great conversation. We have a tanking photo booth there, if you guys don't know that. So people were asking if they can really float, even when they can see that picture that shows them the float. I think people actually get in arguments saying they can't float, but we know they do. So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a scientist discussing something on Facebook the other night. He doesn't understand how they float, which I thought was pretty interesting. And all I can tell the guy is they float because I've been in them twice now, twice. So Mitch and Patty Glidden are sitting there in front of the new booth. It plays up the new campaign, which you'll see in the background.
Yes.
So we were really excited about that. We had commercials at the rodeos on the screens. We played all the commercials we have. So this is kind of the first time that people, and I don't know how many thousands there were, zillions.
I haven't heard the final number.
But first time that everybody's seen the entire new campaign package in one place, and we're really excited about it.
Now I'm just going to talk about some press coverage we've had this month. Since we're starting a whole new year, we're starting tracking new numbers. These are pitches that Turner PR actually did for us. So we had a feature of Carhenge on Matador Network. We also had the most beautiful farm wedding venues across this state, was featuring Arbor Day Farm, which was a great one. Modern Love in Omaha was featured on Open Table. The top right corner, you'll see, we don't know what that says, but it's a travel guide in Japan. We worked with this guy last May, actually hosting him in the Omaha area.
And we talked, when I was in Japan on the trade mission with the governor a year ago, September, we met with people with Globetrotter, and to get in their book's pretty cool. And we were glad to see it develop that fast. But additionally, like Jen said, we actually toured the writer who was here,
we
actually
drove
in the
him
state.
everywhere. And then we also had 10 Reasons You'll Love Omaha. If only you'd give it a chance. And one of my favorite lines in there, this steak is no joke. So those are just some coverage we've already had this first month of the year. Over 7 million people in reach. We are planning press trips this year. Of course, Cranes is our first one. This year it will be Cranes and Trains. With the Golden Spikes anniversary, we'll be featuring a lot of the train history here in Nebraska, starting in Omaha at the Durham, and hitting the cranes up along the way and ending at the Golden Spike in North Platte. We'll also be doing something we've never done before this summer in June. We're going to host a strictly influencer trip. So these are your Instagram people that have millions of followers. Millions might be a reach, but we'll hope. So we're going to have 5 or 6 influencers touring that beautiful part of the state of western Nebraska. And then we're doing Nebraska Elements, July 28th through August 1st. That's going to hit north and northeast Nebraska. And Fall Harvest will be in late September, starting in Omaha and touring southeast Nebraska. And we'll be reaching out to more people on these dates and setting up the logistics of all of them as they get a little bit closer. Another exciting thing that we're really pushing right now is our new the official 2019 Not At All What You Thought State Travel Guide. These are officially out there. If you haven't seen one in person or you need a big drop shipment of them, please let me know. Just email jen.gjerde@nebraska.gov. This year we really tried to make the travel guide fit the theme of the campaign. So there's a lot of funny one-liners in there, landscapes with actual features, and if somebody has a good sense of humor, it's fun to flip through. So let me know if you need some more. Another big thing that we'll be pushing out here in about a month is the new website, and it will also carry through with that theme. We'll be sending out more information as this gets closer to launch, but we're thinking about the second week of March it should be ready. It's going to have a lot of fun new features that the current website doesn't have. An update on our passport program. This year is the 10th anniversary. Application deadline has passed, so Erin Worth, our passport program coordinator, is busy looking through all those applications, visiting the destinations, getting to know the people, hear them out on why there should be a passport stop, and she plans to have a selection announcement in early March. Being that it's the 10-year anniversary, she plans to do some special things with it, and of course we'll notify the people that aren't stops or are stops before we make the big announcement.
And I know you've probably seen these numbers before, but I think we'd be remiss in saying that this program continues to explode. I don't know the exact numbers, but 400 and some people
Completed it in
completed
2017.
in 2017, and we were over 700 last year. So again, you've heard us talk about this. The passport program really enables us to move Nebraskans in and around the state a lot. I've talked to a lot of Nebraskans that say, hey, we've never been to wherever before, so we went out west this year for a couple of weeks. That's the kind of thing we want to do. Keep stirring the pot. Nebraskans learn new things about their own state, even though you already love to travel it anyhow. The other thing we're really carefully looking at, because what we noticed last year is that we're getting a lot of play for this program out of state. So Aaron, we're working with Aaron. We don't know that we're going to do this yet, but know we're looking at it. Maybe of the target markets we're in for spring, summer, we might seed some of the passports in there. In other words, we'll maybe throw a special little Facebook or some campaign or some kind of other social campaign so people can request the passport itself, because there's a lot of people, we had people last year from Oregon and California finish it. In other words, it's just kind of growing virally, and we really like that viral word because it's really helping us a lot. So we're looking at that, not promising it, but at least we're considering it, because if you look at somebody coming in from out of state and they have a passport with, 70 or 80 different stops, that's going to potentially create a lot more overnight stays, and that's what we're looking to do.
A big question that I'm sure people are waiting for an answer on is grants, and all we have to tell you is the announcement is coming tomorrow of who all of our grant recipients are for this year, from the Community Impact Grant to the Marketing Grant. That big announcement is tomorrow afternoon. And another thing that's tomorrow afternoon is the NITA lunch with our state legislature. So if you're going to be in town, we're excited to have you meet with the senators and talk about the issues that are affecting tourism this year.
And talking about Roger coming over, I think you said they had around 30
Senators.
of the 49 senators or somebody on their staff coming, or I think he said some of the senators and their staff are coming. So this will be my third one, and I think that's the biggest turnout of senators so far that I've seen. So it's wonderful. So in other words, not only are we getting more attention from consumers out of state, we're able to talk with a lot more senators, and you know how important they are to our success.
I think that's all we have for today, but Callie, do you have questions?
Yes, we've gotten several questions. Will communities get copies of the articles that are written about them?
They should be. If you haven't been getting them, definitely email me at jen.gjerde@nebraska.gov. But usually when we get notified of them, I push them out to the communities.
Great. And people love the new t-shirts and the new slogan. Do you have any merch for sale?
Oh, goody, goody. To this point, we have been able to buy merchandise and we have to give it away, because right now we don't have authority through statute to sell. So there's a bill being introduced, Senator Stinner's helping us with that will enable the commission to market this merchandise. Yeah, I mean, to me it's a little disappointing, because we should have this stuff ready to go right now. We're still looking at ways to try to do something around when the campaign kicks in early April, or else we'll just be giving a lot more t-shirts away. So yeah, just be patient. It is a little different. The other states I've worked in, they've had shops on their websites. We'll get there. From what I've heard, I don't think we have any problem with getting this through, but it's just not there yet, and by statute, we simply cannot sell. We don't have any implicit or explicit way to do that, but hopefully very soon we will. And truthfully, it's not to make money. Truthfully, it's to put more brand extension out there, so we can have people in the state of Nebraska and throughout the country, because we've had many requests from people outside of the state too. Is how do we get that t-shirt? How do we get that cup? Some cups came in today, I saw them.
Yes.
They were really cold from being in a truck for however long they were, but they're really cool, so know we're on it. we'll get it out there so everybody can have their t-shirt and cup and other things too. So yeah, just be patient. Sometimes it takes patience. I have sometimes very little of that, but we're on it, and I think we'll turn that corner really soon.
And we have been doing giveaways with the swag that we do have on social media. I know our first giveaway, we had over 700 people within the first few hours entering to win that contest. And on Tuesday for National Plan for Vacation Day, we did a social media contest, and we had over 800 comments on the post trying to win t-shirts. And honestly, it's not for everyone's swag. So we know there's a want out there. We've just got to get all these logistics that John is talking about worked out.
And so tell your friends too. I know you guys want them, but it's like, be patient, we'll get them to you. We'll get it out there. They will be available as soon as we can do it.
My plug to you, though, is if you really want one, either watch Facebook or register for the Agri-Ecotourism Workshop by February 8th.
Yeah, because we'll give stuff away.
Yes.
Okay, another question. Can our community create a trip itinerary to add to your new website?
Yes, the new website will have those features. We'll be getting that information out once it's kind of squared away.
And I'll tell you the reason for that, and you probably heard us talk about this before again, but I want to keep reiterating these things because it's kind of a learning process. When we talk to people out of state, we showed them a number of different things to do, places to see, from Carhenge over to the Durley Zoo, north and south, everything in between. And sometimes they would say, that sounds really neat, but is there anything else to do around there? So this whole concept of itinerary building came to the fore because we want to show that whatever they're interested in, whatever piqued their interest, that there's also in that community or in that area a lot of other things to do. So when we go out with this functionality, if you will, on the website, you'll be building them yourselves, and we're going to have some requirements in there because we want you to not only talk about a key or a motivator for people to visit there, whether it's an event or an attraction or whatever it is, but we also are going to require that you list other things to see and do, places to eat and places to stay. So when somebody looks, they'll be able to see an entire menu of kind of things that they can buy a la carte. So it's just not emphasizing the one thing and then having them wonder, I wonder if there's anything else to do around there. No, the whole thing will be right there, that you can do this, you can go to this restaurant and eat, or these restaurants and eat, or whatever. So watch for that. It's going to be really important because you are going to build them yourselves. We'll monitor things and help you, but I think that'll really enable us to, and you've heard me say this before, some of the areas, I was just up in Knox County today, it's really cool, but we have to learn to knit all these things together. So from a consumer standpoint, they say, oh, okay, that's there, and I can do all these other things and eat and sleep here and there. So that's what we're up to with that functionality.
And on the note of the website, once it launches in March, one of our first webinars after that will be a training on how our partners all across the state can use the website, can use that feature with the trips, and just giving you a full overview of what it encompasses for you.
Great. One last question for you. When is the last day you can submit a bid for the tourism conference?
Callie, do you want to come up and talk about that?
I would. It's March 29th.
March 29th, and you're going to go out how many years?
3.
So it would be 2020, 21, and 22.
Mm-hmm.
And March 29th is out there. That announcement's already out.
Correct.
All right. So, oh, there's Callie's email address. So if you're interested, contact her. We're already deeply into planning next year's conference. Last year's was fun. We just have to keep making them better, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that's all we have today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month.
Take care.